So we're here with Christian O'Neill, who wrote Alice in Vaudeville, which is playing on July 30th and 31st. That's Friday and Saturday via Zoom audio play for MCCT. And welcome. And tell us a little bit about where you got the idea of bringing the worlds of vaudeville and Alice in Wonderland together.
Sure thing. This started back in high school where I was getting into theater and I was interested in writing my own play, and then trying to figure out what kind of play I would want to write. And around that time, I discovered Abbott and Costello, getting into their old movies, and then from Abbott and Costello to the Marx Brothers, and then rediscovering the Three Stooges and understanding that the context of their comedy, that it was going on at the same time as Abbott and Costello, the Marx Brothers, George Burns and Gracie Allen, and then leading up towards Lucille Ball, I started getting into that history of American comedy that started in vaudeville. I always had a fondness for the Alice in Wonderland story, and around that time, it was always said that there was never a critically good version of Alice in Wonderland made. So, because there's lots of story problems when adapting Alice in Wonderland to the stage. So I came up with a challenge for myself to try to combine the two together in a stage play format, or in this case, a radio play format.
That's really incredible. So you really threw yourself a curveball.
For writing a first play, it's a very bad idea to give yourself a lot of rules and a lot of basically a lot of rules and must-haves to do, but which is why it's taken me a while to write it.
Tell me about the creative process in creating this play. Did you start with the plot or with the characters? Did you start with vaudeville or Alice? How did this work?
Sure. So originally it started out as a retelling of Alice in Wonderland, like a reskinning of Alice in Wonderland, where all of the Wonderland characters were replaced by a vaudeville comedian of some sort. And sometimes it was people like Will Rogers, and then there was like Kate Smith was in there at one point. I think she was the original Queen of Hearts, and that's how it kind of started out. But when you do that, you get a lot of people. You get several problems. One is you get a lot of people. It's a large cast of like possibly 20 people or so, and then you also get, well, if it's Groucho Marx is the dodo, do you need someone who looks like Groucho Marx in order for the joke to make sense? Like, do you need a Groucho Marx impersonator? So I was running into those kind of problems. And eventually I got it to where I said, instead of coming up to where this is Wonderland, but different, trying to ground it a little more by saying we're just going to have it in a vaudeville house, make it kind of like a period piece to where it's grounded, and we're going to stay in this one spot. We don't have to worry about how the Wonderland vaudeville world works, because that's almost getting into world building and explaining how the world works. Now we're going to just have it in this vaudeville house, and we're just going to have the characters tell the story, and the characters are going to be based on the Alice in Wonderland characters, so people can spot like where the influences came from, while it not being terribly distracting from the story and the plot.
You know, I remember talking to you about how in vaudeville movies, often they were just scaffolds for the performers to do their routines that everybody knew really well. You know, was that a challenge to incorporate that into the show, or did you do it the same way that they do in the movies?
Sure. So one thing that you would notice in like watching a Marx Brother movie, for example, particularly the ones that came out produced by MGM by Irving Thalberg, A Night at the Opera and Day at the Races, they're very formulaic to where they'll have a romantic leads, and the whole plot is the romantic leads end up together and they get what they want. And the Marx Brothers are helping them along the way. And there'll be usually romantic plot, some singing and dancing, and then the Marx Brothers will do a routine, not necessarily in that order, but it will repeat in that order until it gets to the end, because around that time people didn't think that comedy could carry an entire movie. So theoretically, plot wise, you can take out the Marx Brothers doing the whole Santa Claus contract routine. You can leave that out and the plot would still hold up. It would be a lot less funny, but the plot would still hold up. So one of the rules that I gave myself, and again, if you're a new writer, do not do this. Don't give yourself too many rules or you'll never finish. I wanted to find all the famous routines, but try to make them work to where they were integral to the story. Like if you took it out, the story doesn't make sense anymore, or it feels like you're taking a shortcut. So I was trying to find routines based on the Alice in Wonderland story that would make sense uh, in terms of advancing the plot or informing something about the characters.
Well, you really did cut your work out for yourself, didn't you? Did you originally conceive this project as an audio play, or is it a nod to COVID and social distancing?
Right. I referenced earlier that I wrote it as a stage play. And yes, due to the social restrictions that radio plays have become more popular. And I didn't think it was that big of a stretch because a lot of American vaudeville performers ended up in radio and then went to movies and then went to television. So going from the stage into radio made a lot of sense, especially since they're in the show, there are only two settings. There's like the main vaudeville stage, and then there's Gracie's dressing room. So to have it over the radio wasn't really far-fetched to do.
Okay. How did you decide what to include and what to leave on the cutting room floor? I know you mentioned one of your rules was the routine wouldn't be in there if it didn't advance the plot. Anything else? Any other rules like that? Or any other
Sure.
things that just didn't work?
Sure. So a part of it is trying to figure out, I have different characters from the Alice in Vaudeville story, or Alice in Wonderland story, excuse me, represented by something that, or a character that is also representative of somebody from the history of vaudeville. And
Got it.
it was a balance of trying to figure out, is this character needed? And I guess I'll give you an example. At some point, there was a character named Cheshire or Chester, who was a callback to Red Skelton's Freddy the Freeloader character. And he was like the clown of the group, like how he was on television. But after a while, I realized, he's not really doing that much. I can accomplish with his character. I can accomplish what his character does with other characters that I already have, and allow those characters to expand a little bit, giving them more stuff to do. So Freddy the Freeloader had to go. But he was representative of the Cheshire Cat. So I had to figure out, okay, who can I change? Do I need a Cheshire Cat? Because usually you have a Cheshire Cat in a Alice in Wonderland story. So I looked towards the Katz brothers. They're originally called the Ducks brothers, because I thought it was more of alignment to like the Marx brothers, like Duck Soup. It was Dodo, Rat, and Duck. So it was the Ducks brothers. And the reason it was the Duck would be the Harpo character, called Duck because Duck is in the caucus race in the Alice in Wonderland story. And since Harpo only speaks in honks, I thought it made sense to have it be, have Harpo be the Duck. But since the Duck is not that memorable of an Alice in Wonderland character, what I did was I gave the Harpo character the Cheshire Cat persona. So now it's Cheshire Cats, and it's the Cats family instead of the Ducks family. And the reason I get behind it is that Harpo is the surrealistic comedian. They can like pull into their trench coat and get whatever they want, out of their hat, out of their trench coat. So to have them be the Cheshire Cat, like otherworldly character, made a lot more sense than the Duck originally did, even though the Duck had some nice nods to the Marx Brothers history.
Wonderful. Well, we talked a lot about, you've given a lot of examples of what new starting out writers shouldn't do. What about advice for starting writers? What should they be doing? What advice can you give them to help, make things flow and really, feel confident getting out there and doing something?
Yeah, sure. As a new playwright, I was very bad about self-editing. So even to get a first draft done took a very long time to do. And the first draft was still bad. Like there's some good parts in it, but altogether it doesn't work as a full play. So the best advice I've gotten as a writer, and I will pass on, is to just write your first draft and go like right until you get done. And don't try to go back and self-edit anything. Go in with the knowledge that you are going to fix all your problems later at some point. Just go from beginning to end, whether that be like 60 pages or 90 pages or however long you get. And then let that sit. And then 90% of the writing process is revisions. So you go back, you revisit it, and you say, what do I need to change? What characters do I need to strengthen? Do I really need this character? And you can go through different revisions of saying like, for this revision, I'm going to focus on this one specific character, follow them from beginning to end and see, do they develop the way that I want them to? Or are they a strong enough presence that I want? So the biggest advice I can give is don't try to self-edit yourself. Allow yourself a future date to get that done.
Wow, that sounds like really powerful advice. Thank you, Christian. Christian O'Neill, the playwright of Alice in Vaudeville, which is going to be performed on July 30th and 31st. That's Friday and Saturday night, 7 p.m. Check us out at mcct.org to get your tickets and get involved. Thanks, Christian.